Imagine working 60 hours a week for a year, only to find out that the extra 20 hours you put in every single week was legally free labor for your boss. This isn't a glitch. It's a multi-billion-dollar strategy. Did you know that wage theft steals more money from American workers than every bank robbery, shoplifting incident, and car theft in the country combined? But here is the most shocking part. Even if the government proves you were robbed, you might still never see a dime. Today, we're exposing the legal loopholes that put 100% of your overtime at risk. In recent months, a story went viral that sent shivers down the spine of the American workforce. A dedicated employee, validated by the Department of Labor as being owed tens of thousands in unpaid overtime, still couldn't collect their check. How is that possible in a country with strict labor laws? The truth is, we are living in a wage theft economy while you're tracking your hours. Your company might be using a playbook designed to make those hours disappear. In this video, we're going deep into the mechanics of labor exploitation, the manager trap, and why the Department of Labor might be more toothless than you think. You'll want to stay until the end, because we're revealing the one specific clause in your contract that could be signing away your right to sue forever. To understand how your paycheck is being raided, we have to look at the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. This was the landmark law that gave us the 40-hour work week and the right to overtime pay. It was built on a simple premise. If you work more, you get paid more. For decades, this was the bedrock of the American middle class. But as the economy shifted from factories to cubicles and service counters, the definition of work began to blur. Corporations realized that the law had a few exemptions, categories of workers who aren't entitled to overtime. Originally, these were meant for high-level executives with massive salaries. But today, companies have stretched these definitions to include everyone from assistant managers at fast food chains to entry-level IT analysts. This isn't just a technicality. It's a massive transfer of wealth. According to the Economic Policy Institute, billions of dollars are diverted from workers' pockets every year through simple administrative reclassification. You might think you're A, professional, or N, executive because of your title. But in the eyes of the law, that title might just be a tool to keep your overtime pay at zero. But here's where it gets even crazier. Even if you aren't exempt, companies have found ways to make you work off the clock without you even noticing. Let's look at the case that sparked this investigation. A mid-level logistics coordinator discovered they had been misclassified for over 2 years. They were working 55 hours a week but getting paid a flat salary with no overtime. They did the right thing. They went to the Department of Labor. The DOL investigated, found the company in violation, and ordered them to pay $35,000 in back wages. Case closed. Right, wrong. The company simply refused to pay. And here is the terrifying reality. The Department of Labor has very limited power to actually force a company to cut a check. They can fine them. They can sue them. But in many states, if a company decides to play hardball, the burden falls back on the worker to hire a private attorney. But wait, if the DOL already proved the theft, why is it so hard to get the money? It's because of a tactic called judgment proofing. Companies often funnel their assets into different LLCs or subsidiaries. By the time a worker wins a judgment, the specific branch of the company they worked for might, legally, have no money left, while the parent company sits on record profits. It's a shell game where the worker always loses. You're left with a piece of paper saying you're owed $35,000 and a bank account that's still empty. Now, you might be thinking, my company would never do that, but the statistics suggest otherwise. This isn't just happening at shady startups. It's happening at Fortune 500 companies. But how do they justify this legally? That brings us to the gray areas. The most common way your overtime is stolen isn't through a direct, no, It's through a maybe. This is the world of misclassification. To be exempt from overtime, you generally have to meet two criteria. You must be paid a salary, and your job duties must be primarily executive, administrative, or professional. This sounds clear. But companies use these words like Play-Doh. Are you an assistant manager whose primary job is actually stocking shelves and running the register? Under the law, you should probably get overtime. But companies will argue that because you supervised a part-time teenager for 2 hours a week, you are an executive. This manager trap saves the retail and food service industries billions. Then there's the salary basis trick. Some employers believe that just because they pay you a salary, you aren't entitled to overtime. That is a lie, unless you earn over a certain threshold, which was recently updated but is still often lower than a living wage in many cities. You are likely entitled to overtime regardless of your title. But here is the twist. Even if you know the law, many companies implement, de facto, overtime bans. They'll tell you that overtime is not authorized, but then give you a workload that is impossible to complete in 40 hours. If you work late to get it done, you're working for free. If you don't, you're fired for poor performance. It's a double bind designed to extract maximum labor for minimum cost. But surely, if you take them to court, you'll win, right? Well, that leads us to the most dangerous trap of all, one that's likely hidden in your employment contract right now. Let's talk about that clause I mentioned earlier. Forced arbitration. Over 60 million American workers have signed away their right to go to court. Instead, any dispute, including wage theft, must be settled in private arbitration. This isn't a public court with a jury of your peers. It's a private meeting where the oathly judge is an arbitrator often picked and paid for by the company. Statistics show that workers are significantly less likely to win in arbitration. And even when they do, the payouts are much lower. It's a shadow legal system that keeps corporate crimes out of the public eye. But it gets even worse. Many of these agreements include class action waivers. This means even if a company steals $100 from 10,000 employees, those employees cannot band together to sue. Each person has to fight a multi-million-dollar corporation individually for their $100. Most people simply give up. It's a calculated risk for the company. The cost of the occasional settlement is far lower than the profit made from systemic wage theft. This is why we see companies repeat these mistakes year after year. They aren't mistakes. They are line items in a budget. They have weaponized the legal system to make justice too expensive for the average worker to afford. But this isn't just about individual paychecks. This is an economic contagion that affects everyone. Why does this keep happening? Because the math of wage theft is incredibly profitable. If a company steals $2,000 from 1,000 employees, they've made $2 million. If the Department of Labor catches them and fines them $500,000, the company still walks away with a $1.5 million profit. In business terms, that's not a penalty. It's a transaction fee. This creates a race to the bottom. If one company saves 15% on labor costs by cheating, their competitors feel pressured to do the same just to stay in business. This erodes the entire labor market. We're seeing a shift where the risk of business is being transferred from the owners to the workers. When a company is lean, it usually means the employees are absorbing the extra hours for free. The truth about wage theft is that it's not an accident of a complex system. It's a feature of a system that prioritizes efficiency over equity. The loophole isn't just in the law. It's in the lack of meaningful consequences. Until the penalty for wage theft exceeds the profit gained from it, your overtime will always be a target. So, what can you do? First, document everything. Your own log of hours is often your best evidence. Second, know your status. Don't assume that because you have a salary or a fancy title, you aren't entitled to overtime. Check the DOL's Fair Labor Standards Act guidelines for your specific role, and most importantly, read your contract for arbitration clauses. Knowledge is your only defense in an economy that views your time as a negotiable expense. Wage theft is a silent epidemic, but by bringing it into the light, we can start to demand the enforcement and legislative changes needed to close these loopholes for good. Your time is your life. Don't let them steal it. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, please hit the like button and share this with a coworker. It might just save their paycheck. We're covering more of these hidden economic truths every week, so make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Have you ever felt like your overtime was being managed away? Let us know your story in the comments below. Thanks for watching.